Happy Halloween, everyone. My name is Doomasect, and today we're going to create a kaiju. So fire up them Tesla coils, wait for that thunderstorm, and make sure your door is barred because we don't want angry mobs getting inside. Let's go ahead and begin, shall we? Our kaiju for this video is Thresher, terror of Halloween. Thomas Brown grew up on a very small farm outside of a small town in America in the 1950s. He was a normal boy to everyone around him, and while that may have been true at least at school, Thomas had a secret he kept from his peers. Thomas's father was a survivor of the war in the Pacific, and his time overseas was catching up with him. While the first initial years home, Brian Brown seemed happy. The experience of the war caught up with him, and he had resorted to drinking. In drunken fits of rage, Brian would beat his son and wife. This continued for years until Thomas turned 18. Finally, Thomas stood up for himself and his mother. In a rage, Brian would beat Thomas unconscious. He would then take his wife out to the old pumpkin patch and shoot her. He then planned to burn down the family house and farm. Thomas would awaken and escape the fire. He tracked his father down to the pumpkin patch and would end up killing Brian with an old scythe, ending his father once and for all. The police would eventually arrive, and after a trial, Thomas was found not guilty on terms of self-defense. Thomas would rebuild and take over the family farm, but over the next few years, Thomas found a growing itch. Taking the life of his father had been exhilarating, and Thomas wanted more. Thomas would go on to adopt the identity of the Thresher, a serial killer that would plague the Midwest United States throughout the 70s and early 80s. After nearly being caught in 1984, Thomas decided that the times were changing too much, and he would eventually get caught. Thomas retired the title of the Thresher and resumed farm life. For nearly 30 years, Thomas ran the farm, until one day being diagnosed with terminal cancer. With his life coming to an end, Thomas decided to scratch his itch one last time instead of seek treatment. Thomas went to the small town that his farm was outside of and made a huge advertisement. A haunted maze would be set up at his farm and promised to make it the best Halloween experience in the state. Thomas would take out huge loans and spent nearly his entire life savings making sure his final stage was set. On October 31st, thousands from the area would flock to the farm. As promised, Thomas had hired enough help and rented enough props that the entire farm had been incorporated into a maze. What few managed to realize is that some of the thrills they were seeing weren't makeup and costumes. Many loved watching people getting chased around by the crazy old guy with the scythe, thinking it was just part of an act. By the time that people had finally started to realize it wasn't part of the act, Thomas had killed nearly 100 people. Soon the cops were called, but as they arrived, they found a very peculiar scene. The farm was in shambles. Cars were still parked all around, but there wasn't a person in sight. Unfortunately, the officers would soon discover why there was no one around. The massive kaiju Thresher would rise from the ruined farm. It quickly moved its way to the small town, devouring everything that it could. Before leaving, the creature made sure to burn the entire town to the ground, leaving not a trace that it had ever been there. Thresher would then move on to the closest city. Throughout the night, Thresher would carve a path of destruction through said city. As the sun finally rose, Thresher let out one raging, final blazing storm of glory and then disappeared, leaving more than 100,000 dead and 300,000 injured. For months, the military would search for the whereabouts of the giant monster, but no traces of it could ever be found. That was until next year on October 31st. Thresher would reappear halfway across the country, and a similar scene unfolded. Once again, as the sun rose, Thresher would disappear. Thresher stands at a massive 115 meters tall, and from front to tail is nearly twice as long. Thresher's signature weapon is the one he's named after: his massive claws. With ease, Thresher can slice through skyscrapers as if they're butter. But don't think that keeping your distance means that you're safe from this kaiju. Thresher can fire a concentrated ray of plasma from his mouth. All of his mouths. That's right, the 4 pumpkins on Thresher's tentacles can also spew smaller versions of the plasma beam. In fact, Thresher's most powerful attack is when it begins venting a constant flow of plasma from all 5 mouths at the ground, slowly building up a massive wave of burning death that can engulf several city blocks with ease. Thresher is absolutely baffled scientist. Despite looking like a plant, Thresher's far from it. Fire, usually viewed as the bane of plants, does absolutely nothing to Thresher. It doesn't burn. On top of that, it's able to withstand tremendous concussive forces. Not even the mighty Moab was enough to do serious damage to Thresher. Thresher baffles the science community even further. To this day, scientists have been unable to come up with how the creature survives. Not only should it crumble under its own immense size, Thresher doesn't even appear to need to be able to eat. While the smaller pumpkins have been observed snatching up people and devouring them, they're incinerated instantly. Thresher shouldn't be getting any nutritional value out of them. On top of that, Thresher appears to only eat people. Government officials have instead sought advice from an uncanny source: supernatural experts. Thresher is believed to be a demonic spirit that's manifested a physical body into our world. When it air quotes eats people, Thresher is burning their souls and storing them inside him as fuel. Manifesting itself into our world takes massive amounts of energy. Thresher must burn enough souls each Halloween to be able to rise the next Halloween. It's currently a hot debate amongst these supernatural experts exactly how many souls Thresher needs to consume to be able to manifest into our world again. Currently, the military is prepping for Operation Nightmare. The plan is to attack the creature with low-temperature weapons, cryobombs, and missiles. Experts have theorized these might be far more effective against dealing with the massive monster than what conventional weapons are. Supernatural experts are advising to bombard the creature when it goes to disappear, hoping that making its way back to hell will put it into a weaker state than when it manifests. Well, holy shit, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. We did it. We built a kaiju. If you liked the video, please hit a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, please subscribe. Until next time, this has been Doomasect. Watch out for bears. Well, that was a little different, huh? I created Thresher 2 years ago, and a few days ago, my Facebook feed decided to inform me that it had in fact been 2 years. So I decided to redraw my monster. And then I kinda decided, why not make a video? It's been a long time since I've made a kaiju video, and it seemed like a fun idea. Now, I'd like to do more of these, but if I do, it's likely they're going to be a once-a-month series, because drawing takes a lot of time. That's something I don't have a lot of at the moment. But we'll see as time goes on. So, once again, even though I've outroed the video, I'm Doomasect. Watch out for bears.